Joining us now is Joel Rubin. He served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under President Obama. Joel, thanks very much for joining us. There are local media reports right now, as you know, that Egyptian officials are actually refusing to allow U.S. citizens, U.S. nationals, to enter Egypt, the Sinai, from Gaza at that Rafah border crossing in the southern part of Gaza. Instead, they're insisting that the crossing must facilitate humanitarian aid to Gaza instead of letting Americans cross the other way into Egypt. The State Department says there may be very little warning if the crossing were to open up by the Egyptians. Is there anything more the U.S. can do right now to ensure that that border opens and that U.S. citizens, many of them Palestinian dual citizens, could actually get out of Gaza and potentially save their lives?
Yeah, Wolf, it's great to be with you, and I appreciate the way you're outlining this. The number one job, as you know, for the State Department is to protect American citizens overseas, and clearly in an active war zone, it's crucial that every possible ally and asset be made available for that evacuation. And regarding Egypt, this discussion now in the humanitarian corridor, the proposal of one, this is really getting into a dicey situation for the actual American citizens who need to get out. The war is imminent. Certainly, Secretary Blinken in his engagements in the region is pressing for this. There's a lot of pressure now coming from Congress as well on the humanitarian corridor. And Egypt, it's been reticent to open up the gates, as I'm sure you're aware. They have their own internal reasons for why they don't want Palestinians to flood potentially into Egypt. But there is a way. They do have border crossings, and they just have to show the political will to actually allow the individuals who have the documentation to come through. But yeah, a lot of political and diplomatic pressure right now to get that done.
Yeah, you would think that the Egyptians would be much more open to allowing these American citizens to leave Gaza, that dangerous area, get into Egypt and Sinai, make their way to Cairo or Sharm el-Sheikh or someplace where they can catch a plane to come home. I'm surprised the Egyptians are preventing them from coming in. President Biden said, as you know, Joel, that the United States, in Biden's words, is working like hell to bring home Americans abducted by Hamas, the hostages. Last week, they were abducted last week. How does the U.S. negotiate their release, given the very volatile situation that's unfolding right now on the ground in Gaza? These hostages are presumably there on the ground in Gaza.
Yeah, Wolf, this is such a diabolical nightmare scenario, quite frankly. Human shields being stolen, ripped away from their families in Israel and taken into hell, into Gaza. But regardless of how they are right now in terms of the situation, there is still life there. And so it's incumbent upon Israel to support any diplomatic efforts. And this means with Secretary Blinken, he's out in the region. We have allies like Egypt and like Qatar in particular who have deep contacts inside Hamas at the political level. They know the military wing. They have pressured Hamas over the years in different manners. And they have to get the word out to Hamas that this is essential. This is not just Americans or Israelis, too. There are other countries that are affected by this. And our allies, we're looking at them right now, and they've been arguing for years that they have access to and influence over Hamas. Well, now it's time to show it. And if they can, that will be a significant win for everybody concerned. If they can't, there's a real danger here that these human beings are going to be treated in the most horrific way. And that's, of course, clearly on the top of mind of the Israeli military planners.
Yeah, it's so sad what's going on right now.
Horrible.
To your point, we did see the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, arrive in the United Arab Emirates earlier today, marking his fifth stop in recent days. Top U.S. officials are aiming to prevent the war in Israel from expanding further. What's your assessment of that, Joel, the effort by the U.S. to calm things down? How's that going?
You know, I think there's a real opportunity here for the United States to demonstrate once again the importance of global diplomatic leadership. The Secretary, the President doing that in Ukraine and building an international set of allies. In this case, it's essential. We can't allow this war to expand beyond the theater that we're currently talking about. It cannot include Lebanon. It cannot metastasize and potentially have Iran engage as well. It cannot destabilize countries in the region. So it's essential that this reassurance not just be military reassurance, as we're seeing in the Eastern Med, looking at Hezbollah, quite frankly, and saying, do not use your missiles, but also reassurance to our allies that there is an American program in place, and that, as the Secretary is doing by going to these capitals, saying that the United States hears you and is going to work with you collaboratively. That kind of leadership, that's the kind of leadership that, absent that, things fall apart very quickly. So I applaud the Secretary, I applaud the administration for leaning in right now ahead of time so that all the pieces can potentially be put together, because this could flare into a regional conflict if it's not taken care of. And so that's why we see so much activity right now.
Yeah, I'm not only worried about Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, what they
That's
potentially could do, and obviously what's going on in Gaza. I'm worried about Syria and Iran potentially getting involved as well. It's a real concern that I have. Joel Rubin, thank you very, very much. Still to come.